Do you have old bones?
I feel like I do.
It's fatherhood weighing on you, isn't it?
Man, it's all kinds of shit weighing on me.
Oh, by the way, it's Tuesday. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lords of the Night. With me, as always, is the Lord of Pennies, Satsu 2 cents.
What up, though?
And I'm your host, Scribe, the Lord of Punishment. Hello, everyone. Hello, chat. Hope you're all doing well on this Tuesday. Hope your week so far has been good, and the week ahead is going to treat you as well. If not better, hopefully better. May the 4th be with you.
Indeed.
Yes. If you hadn't noticed, tonight's theme is a Star Wars theme. Now, would you believe that I decided to do this completely forgetting that my next broadcast day would fall on May 4th?
The only reason I'll say yes is because there was a relevant tweet that you were talking about, which probably inspired you before you remembered what today was.
Maybe. I don't know. But I mean, I realized it yesterday or the day before, whichever. And I was like, oh, yeah. So, yeah, just a happy accident, but maybe it was subconscious. I don't know. Maybe it's a micro compliment, not an aggression. I don't know. Anyway, here we are on May the 4th. And I have a special segment planned for this evening, Satsu.
Oh, yeah?
Special surprise segment. I'm going to forego with the fucketry. We'll do our little YouTube bit at the time. But then we're going to do something different. Or I'm going to do something different. You don't have to. You just get to sit there and listen, I guess.
All right.
I'm not going to tell you what it is. I kind of hinted at something about it on the Twitters earlier. But that's for those of you that pay attention to such things. Satsu, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I had a fairly decent day. I made some chicken Phillies, and they were delicious. And got to record it, although I don't know how good the footage is because I had to kind of rush it. But we'll find out when I look at it. And if it's usable, then it'll be used. If not, I'll just have to make it again at some point. Right. Chilling out. Nothing bad to report.
Cool. For myself, it was a relatively quiet work day. Tomorrow will also be conceivably a relatively quiet work day because my usual meeting that happens on Wednesdays has been pushed off to Thursday. Should not interfere with TEDx. Should not. And I'm going to make efforts to make sure it does not. But also, a programming note, which I will mention again at YouTube time. I have a special guest joining me for TED Excellence this week. Granted, everything lines up and, subject to change, of course. But this week, joining me will be in human form, friend of the channel, who I interviewed in my last Familiar with the Matter. He does documentaries on crime and society and all types of stuff. And so be sure to go check out his channel if you haven't already. He is in the sort of the Jim Can't Swim circle, as it were, at this point. The small cadre of YouTubers who are the disciples of Jim Can't Swim in format, if not always in actual content or subject matter, but all the same. He'll be joining me on Thursday. But that all being said, Monkey Dick, Jim Jones, movies, video games, hit that like button if you guys haven't already. And I can see that you haven't. Wish you would. And also, share our stuff. Share it far, wide, sideways, and otherwise. YouTube does a very poor job of doing so. You guys are our best algorithm, and we appreciate it when you do. So, all that being said, let's move on to the news. Are you ready, Satsu?
Indeed.
All right. So first off, and we kind of talked about this yesterday, but this might be new information. Derek Chauvin's attorney files motion for new trial. An attorney for Derek Chauvin filed a motion for a new trial on Tuesday. The former Minneapolis police officer was convicted on April 20th of second-degree unintentional murder, second-degree manslaughter, and third-degree murder in the death of George Floyd. The 4-page document filed by attorney Eric Nelson details a number of errors the defense believes were made during the trial, which violated Chauvin's constitutional rights to due process and a fair trial. We've talked about those before. Thank you. This is Kyle. Hello, chat people in Lawton. Hello, Kyle. Let's see. Where was I left off there? These include allegations of mistakes made by Hennepin Judge Peter Cahill, prosecutorial misconduct, juror misconduct, witness intimidation, and the impact of publicity. He's got a lot going for him in that argument. He really does. No specific incident or juror were noted in the motion. In a statement to CNN, John Stiles, Deputy Chief of Staff for Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, said, quote, "The court has already rejected many of these arguments and the state will vigorously oppose them," unquote. The new court filing alleges the publicity during the trial threatened its fairness and a defense expert witness was intimidated after he testified, but before the jury deliberated. Quote, "The publicity here was so pervasive and so prejudicial before and during this trial that it amounted to a structural defect in the proceedings," Nelson wrote. Nelson accused the jury of committing misconduct and may have, quote, "felt threatened or intimidated, felt race-based pressure during the proceedings, and or failed to adhere to instructions during deliberations," the motion read. Thank you, tall person. Whoops. Is it lagging for anyone else? I don't know. Is it lagging for anyone else? That was a misclick because the chat jumped on me, but either way. And thank you, tall person. Hoy all, can't watch live. We'll watch in full later. Happy National Orange Juice Day. I just bought some orange juice today, so I'm right in line, unbeknownst to me. Thank you, tall person. Let's see. The court abused its discretion by not granting a change of venue or sequestering the jury, the court filing says. The court also, quote, "abused its discretion when it submitted instructions to the jury that failed to accurately reflect the law," unquote, in reference to the second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and unauthorized use of force, the document read. Nelson also wrote the prosecutors committed misconduct, quote, "including but not limited to disparaging the defense, improper vouching, and failing to adequately prepare its witnesses," unquote. So I don't have it in front of me, but you know that juror that was had attended a rally or whatever in the months previous? Mm-hmm. There is a picture of him at this rally wearing a, I think it says something to the effect of "take your knee off our neck."
Yeah, it was it had Martin Luther King on it or
yeah,
something.
Yeah. And I was just like, I mean, I since I didn't see the process of them questioning witnesses, I'm curious if they ever had anything on their list about, have you ever attended any rallies, et cetera, in for or against this incident?
Yeah, because you better believe. I mean, it's pretty safe to assume that individual absolutely went in there with knowing exactly what he was going to do, no deliberation necessary. Yeah. So and that's the thing. Can you? I mean, in a situation like this, can you have a completely unprejudiced jury, or at least a jury that's completely oblivious to what the case is about? Probably not. Can you try to weed out jurors who come in with a foregone conclusion on their mind? Hopefully you can. But anyway, as the weeks and months roll on, we'll see if any of these arguments end up being accepted by the appellate courts, and we'll see what happens. But moving on from that, over to this one. Pentagon tracking out-of-control Chinese rocket that could re-enter Earth's atmosphere. That sounds dangerous.
It's a little bit. I read a little bit on this the other day. The Pentagon has said it is tracking a large Chinese rocket that is out of control and set to re-enter Earth's atmosphere this weekend, raising concerns about where its debris may impact. The Chinese Long March 5B rocket is expected to enter Earth's atmosphere, quote, around May 8th, unquote, according to a statement from Defense Department spokesperson Mike Howard, who said the U.S. Space Command is tracking the rocket's trajectory. The rocket's, quote, exact entry point into the Earth's atmosphere, unquote, can't be pinpointed until within hours of reentry, Howard said, but the 18th Space Control Squadron will provide daily updates on the rocket's location through the Space Track website. The rocket was used by the Chinese to launch a part of their space station last week. While most debris objects burn up in the atmosphere, the rocket's size, 22 tons, has prompted concern that large parts could re-enter and cause damage, excuse me, if they hit inhabited areas. Yeah, the thing is apparently like 22 tons and about 10 stories tall. Not exactly a small piece of garbage. But Jonathan McDowell, an astrophysicist at the Astrophysics Center at Harvard University, told CNN that the situation is, quote, not the end of days, unquote. Quote, I don't think people should take precautions. What precautions could you take, honestly? Let's say like an underground bunker. The risk that there will be some damage or that it would hit someone is pretty small, not negligible. It could happen, but the risk that it will hit you is incredibly tiny. And so I would not lose 1 second of sleep over this on a personal threat basis, he said. Quote, there are much bigger things to worry about, unquote. Such as? What do you know that you're not telling us, Professor? McDowell explained that pinpointing where debris could be headed is almost impossible at this point because of the speed the rocket is traveling, with even slight changes in circumstance drastically change the trajectory. Quote, we expect it to re-enter sometime between the 8th and 10th of May, and in that 2-day period, it goes around the world 30 times. The thing is traveling at like 18,000 miles an hour, and so if you're an hour out at guessing when it comes down, you're 18,000 miles out and saying where. And so you should not believe anyone who tells you, oh yeah, I've heard it's coming down in this particular place, McDowell added. Quote, don't believe them at least a few hours before the re-entry because we're just not going to know in advance. Well, hopefully it doesn't hit me. Or Ohio.
Yeah, that'd be unfortunate.
Or anywhere populated. Let's just put it that way. Anywhere populated. There's plenty of ocean on the planet, plenty of like completely desolate desert and mountains and things. So hopefully it'll be anywhere but on people. That'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Moving on from that. What do we got next? I got a whole sort of smorgasbord of stories here, just different things from all over the place. Let's go for this one. Wine that went to space, there's a segue, for sale with $1 million price tag.
All right.
$1 million. Why? The wine is out of this world. The price is appropriately stratospheric. Christie said Tuesday that it is selling a bottle of French wine that spent more than a year in orbit aboard the International Space Station. The auction house thinks a wine connoisseur might pay as much as $1 million to own it. Okay. The Petrus 2000 is one of 12 bottles sent into space in November 2019 by researchers exploring the potential for extraterrestrial agriculture. It returned 14 months later, subtly altered, according to wine experts who sampled it at a tasting in France. Tim Tiptree, international director of Christie's Wine and Spirits Department, the auction house has a wine and spirits, said the space-aged wine was, quote, matured in a unique environment, unquote, of near-zero gravity aboard the space station. The trip turned a $10,000 a bottle wine. So even without going to space, it costs $10,000 a bottle. Why?
Because them grapes fancy, son.
Known for its complexity, silky, ripe tannins, and flavors of black cherry, cigar box, and leather. You know, when I want a garnish on my meal, my first go-to is cigar box. Nothing like a ground-up cigar box just sprinkled all over my potatoes.
Now that's the stuff.
Oh, and leather. Well, depends on the circumstances. But anyway, into a scientific novelty and still a fine bottle of wine, Tiptree said, quote, it's just a very harmonious wine that has the ability to age superbly, which is why it was chosen for this experiment. I have no idea what any of that means. It sounds like nonsense. Quote, it's very encouraging that it was delicious on return to Earth, unquote. Well, I mean, it's not going to suddenly transmute into gold or something because it went to space.
It could.
No. Private space starship Space Cargo Unlimited sent the wine into orbit in November 2019 as part of an effort to make plants on Earth more resilient to climate change and disease by exposing them to new stresses. I think the stresses on the grapes being turned into wine was already kind of catastrophic, so I don't think sending it to space changed that. Researchers also want to better understand the aging process, fermentation, and bubbles in wine. Okay, well, I guess if you take a crate of wine that costs X amount of money and send it to space and then can bring it back down to Earth and charge gadzooks amounts more for it, maybe you'd make a profit. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not a wine drinker. I don't know. I wouldn't pay. I don't know that I'd pay $100 for a bottle of wine, let alone 10,000. So, anyway, let's go on to something even more terrible than that. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Doctors investigate mystery brain disease in Canada. And no, I don't think it's politeness. Doctors in Canada have been coming across patients showing symptoms similar to that of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, a rare fatal condition that attacks the brain. But when they take a closer look, what they found left them stumped. Almost 2 years ago, Roger Ellis collapsed at home with a seizure on his 40th wedding anniversary. Bad timing. In his early 60s, Mr. Ellis, who was born and raised around New Brunswick's bucolic Acadian Peninsula, had been healthy until that June and was enjoying his retirement after decades working as an industrial mechanic. His son, Steve Ellis, says after that fateful day, his father's health rapidly declined. Quote, he had delusions, hallucinations, weight loss, aggression, repetitive speech, he said. At one point, he couldn't even walk. So in the span of 3 months, we were being brought to a hospital to tell us they believed he was dying, but no one knew why. Roger Ellis's doctors first suspected Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, CJD. CJD is a human prion disease, a fatal and rare degenerative brain disorder that sees patients present with symptoms like failing memory, behavioral changes, and difficulties with coordination. So it's like fast onset Alzheimer's. One widely known category is variant CJD, which is linked to eating contaminated meat infected with mad cow disease. CJD also belongs to a wider category of brain disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and ALS, in which proteins in the nervous system become misfolded and aggregated. But Mr. Ellis's CJD test came back negative, as did the barrage of other tests his doctors put him through as they tried to pinpoint the cause of his illness. His son says the medical team did their best to alleviate his father's varying symptoms, but we're still left with a mystery. What was behind Mr. Ellis's decline? I think it was Professor Plum in the conservatory with the candlestick. No? Okay. Thank you, Pecoraro, the driving ape man. We call that being a member of the Liberal Party.
Yuck.
I was wondering if we would get political on that one. In March of this year, the younger Mr. Ellis came across a possible, if partial, answer. Okay. Radio Canada, the public broadcaster, obtained a copy of a public health memo that had been sent to the province's medical professionals warning of a cluster of patients exhibiting an unknown degenerative brain disease. The first thing I said was, "This is my dad," he recalls. Roger Ellis is now believed to be one of those afflicted with the illness and is under the care of Dr. Alier Marrero, the neurologist with Moncton's Dr. Georges L. Dumont University Hospital Center. All right, Canada, just shorten it down a bit, just a little. Says doctors first came across the baffling disease in 2015. At the time, it was one patient, an isolated and atypical case, he says. But since then, there have been more patients like the first, enough that now doctors have been able to identify the cluster as a different condition or syndrome, quote, not seen before. The province says it's currently tracking 48 cases, evenly split between men and women, in ages ranging from 18 to 85. Ugh. Those patients are from the Acadian Peninsula and Moncton areas of New Brunswick. 6 people are believed to have died from the illness. Most patients began experiencing symptoms recently from 2018 on, though one is believed to have had them as early as 2013. Dr. Marrero says the symptoms are wide-ranging and can vary among patients. At first, there can be behavioral changes like anxiety, depression, and irritability. Along with unexplained pain. Muscle aches and spasms in previously healthy individuals. Well, maybe not that yet. Frequently, patients develop difficulty sleeping, severe insomnia or hypersomnia, and memory problems. They can be fast advancing There can be fast advancing language impairments that make it difficult to communicate and hold a fluent conversation, issues like stuttering or word repetition. Another symptom is rapid weight loss and muscle atrophy, as well as visual disturbances and coordination problems and involuntary muscle twitching.
That's a lot of shit.
That sounds like one of those ads for medicines they have to put on the air now where they list off all the possible side effects.
Yeah. Got a bad sneeze? Here's 3,000 side effects.
Yes, it's like, you need to take new and improved Darkadin. Darkadin may cause death, hiccups, neck pain, eye swelling, bleeding out of your orifices. Just like on and on and on. Let's see. There's no treatment beyond helping to alleviate the discomfort. That sucks. For now, the theory is that the disease is acquired, not genetic. Well, if you're seeing clusters amongst unrelated people, I would agree with you. Our first common idea is that there's a toxic element acquired in the environment of this patient that triggers the degenerative changes. It's probably toxic waste or weird algae or something. I don't know. New Brunswick. This has something to do with being Canadian. Ooh, it might be in the maple syrup.
You might be on to something.
I might be on something. One of them.
Maple syrup.
Let's close out the news because we only got a few minutes left with something that I'm sure will take up lots of talking time. What it's like to be a black police officer navigating two turbulent worlds.
This ought to be good.
By Alicia Lee at CNN. Sacramento Police Chief Daniel Hahn knows he plays a key role in changing the culture of policing and how communities perceive officers. It's a tough position to be in for a black man in 2021. If you say so. Thank you, Hokey Native. Clearly, it's aliens. You mean visiting Americans? I made a funny. I'm the only one laughing. Okay.
As usual.
He's endured being called an Uncle Tom and a sellout. Who is calling him that, I wonder?
I wonder.
In 2017, Hahn became the first African-American police chief in the Sacramento Police Department. While he understands the frustrations of the black community, the name calling is hard to hear. Quote, I think that's probably the hardest thing to have your own community, something that you've been part of since the day you were born, have this perception, Hahn said.
It's almost like you're not a part of some set up preset community.
Yeah, like there's not a monolith or something. It's all kind of ideological. But black police officers also get called names by others. Oh, so we're doing whataboutism. We're not going to talk about the fact that a lot of this comes from other black people to begin with, especially the Uncle Tom part, the sellout part.
If this was any other scenario, they would have definitely focused on that. But they're like, oh, we're going to dismiss it and say, yeah, but other people call them stuff too. How come the fact that whenever a cop does something, somebody says, yeah, but other cops don't? That's not a good enough fucking segue.
Hahn recalls how during protests, quote, young white kids, unquote, walked up to them and called them a, quote, race traitor, unquote.
Well, yeah, white liberals are at the forefront of those arguments, and they're black leaders are telling them to say that. So,
as the shootings of black people continue to rock cities across America, there's shootings of other people that aren't black too. I mean, if it matters to you,
no,
it makes you feel better.
It's literally irrelevant. I mean, there's probably. If we actually took from the moment George Floyd got shot by the police all the way up until now, and somebody documented every white person that's been shot by the police since then, the number is probably quite ridiculous. But nobody gives a fuck because they're white, so who cares?
Debates about reform and what it means to defund the police continue. What it means, I know exactly what it means to defund the police: cutting their budgets, losing officers, losing resources, response times increase. Response times maybe become irrelevant because nobody shows up. Right? And black officers are finding themselves navigating two worlds that are often at odds and sometimes even at war with each other, the black and the blue. With police training programs under scrutiny after Derek Chauvin's murder conviction, the Sacramento Police Department is using several high-profile police killings of black Americans. Wait, is using several high-profile police killings of Black Americans as it trains the next generation of officers to better anticipate and respond to high-risk encounters. Okay. Under Hahn's leadership, the department's training techniques have been largely shaped by the police killing of Stephen Clark, a 22-year-old Black man in the city in 2018. And graphic videos of recent fatal police shootings, including 16-year-old Micaiah Bryant in Columbus, Ohio, and 20-year-old Dante Wright in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, are serving as teachable moments in the agency's hands-on training. I'd be curious to know, because those are two entirely different scenarios. Entirely different scenarios. One was a idiotic mistake. I mean, that's in my eyes, an experienced police officer saying mistake is kind of like the understatement of the century.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a better, professional incompetence or something. But either way, one is a complete mistake. The other one was a police officer acting to preserve and save other lives.
Well, what's weird though is it doesn't matter what the circumstances were, because at the end of the day, the narrative here is don't ever shoot a Black person for any reason, no matter what. That's what the training entails. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on. If you are about to breathe your last, you got your hand on your gun and they're aiming down at you, about to pull the trigger, you better do nothing. Because if you shoot them, even if that was the circumstances and it was all on camera, you're a fucking disgusting racist piece of shit, and that's the end of it. So there
Let's
you go.
see. Confronting racism on the job. I wonder if they're going to talk about, again, the Uncle Tom stuff. DeLacy Davis remembers the moment vividly. The New Jersey officer and a fellow officer were patrolling the streets of East Orange when a Black woman and her daughter accidentally stepped in front of their police cruiser. Okay. The other officer, who was white, rolled down his window. Quote, "What the hell are you doing, you effing ends?" Davis recalled him saying while censoring out the racial slur. Okay.
And he still has a job?
How long ago was this? Davis, who is Black, is now retired from the force, but that moment 30-something years ago was just one of the many times he realized how some of his white colleagues viewed his community. Quote, "The few bad apples theory is a theory that I think is postulated by my colleagues and politicians to minimize the impact of this racism that is baked into the culture of policing," unquote, Davis said.
So you're all racists.
Yeah, including yourself. Including yourself. Oh,
yeah.
Former Officer Davis.
That's what he just said. We're all actually racist, like for real, like not even unconsciously or anything. You said the few bad apples thing is a bullshit narrative that people made up to try to. So yeah, you're all actually racist. So what's the problem then?
Thank you, Vercingetorix. I guarantee it would be a better use of funds to train them in anti-race baiting cry bully tactics. Have you read Rules for Radicals? I haven't. Maybe I should just know what's going on that side of things, but I don't know what the solution is. I mean, like it's with everything else. How do you cure racism? I think the first thing you do, at least in this instance, is stop vilifying police. Did you see that video of the lady being pulled over by the cop? With him, it was some white lady. Was it a white lady? Wait. Anyway, some lady was being pulled over by a cop, and the police officer, only because it's relevant to the story, I believe is Latino, and she said something, "You're not even Mexican, you're white," or something like that. It was like, what? I wish I could quote it in front of me. I don't have it. People in the chat probably know and probably have a better recitation of it, but I just watched it today and I was like, holy cats, man. Let's see. The few bad apples, right. They are aware of the deep divide. Okay, so you're going to talk about racist police officers. You're not going to talk about where the racism is coming at police officers?
Nope.
The chasm between cops and communities of color has always been deep, and it's getting deeper. Okay. Black men are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than white men, according to one recent study. Likely, and then did you factor in armed versus unarmed, justified versus unjustified?
There is no such thing as justified.
Black women are 1.4 times more likely to be killed by police than white women. And yet just 27% of white officers think the deaths of African Americans in police encounters are a sign of a broader problem, according to a Pew survey. Okay, what do blacks think about it?
It doesn't matter what they think. Unless it's what we think, then it's worth mentioning.
Police brutality against blacks, Davis says, hasn't become the culture of policing. It has always been the culture of policing. Now it's just getting filmed more. He acknowledges that not all cops are bad.
You just said that was a narrative that they created on some bullshit.
You said baked into the culture of policing, and that police brutality against blacks has always been the culture of policing. Okay, but he says, put two bad apples in a bag of good ones. When you, quote, check on them next week, you'll see that you got worms through all the apples, unquote. Okay, so you, Officer Davis, sitting in that car with your partner, who is obviously a racist, you had worms in you thereafter you became a racist.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's what I'm hearing.
Or are you immune to it? Because if you're immune to it, how do you say and how do you condemn any other cop who just happens to be around somebody who's an asshole? Anyway, they've come to accept it. It is this world that black officers have to tread, a delicate balance of reconciling allegiance and identity. Oh, Christ. Retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey knows this all too well. She was working as a patrol officer during the 1992 Los Angeles riots, which started after 4 white officers were acquitted in the beating of a black man named Rodney King. As a cop during those protests, Dorsey was called plenty of names, but she didn't take it personally because, quote, they don't know Cheryl, they just know the uniform, unquote, she said. Well, that's honestly not an unhealthy way to look at it on the job. Quote, I've never been torn. I am able to be a black woman and a police officer and do my job professionally as I was trained, rely on my training and tactics so that I am not aggressive when it's unnecessary, says Dorsey, who wrote an autobiography titled Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate. That all sounds completely reasonable to me. Davis knows this too. Does he, though? He's been called a pig, among other names at protests, but he had to understand that, quote, it's not you personally they're attacking the symbol that you represent, unquote. Well, when they throw a brick at your head, it starts becoming pretty personal. I mean, yeah, words are words. All the same. Or, like if you've seen in various Black Lives Matter marches where it's like pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon. Things like that. You know, calling for brutality against police or to provoke police.
Scribbles, that was a conspiracy. That never happened.
Yeah, there wasn't footage of it. They know where their loyalties lie, okay? In the 1990s, Dorsey sat in court testifying against a suspected criminal. But this suspect wasn't a civilian. Dorsey was testifying against one of her own brothers in blue. A white officer was accused of shooting and killing a black tow truck driver who failed to stop at his command. Dorsey says she knew the risks of speaking out against another officer. Just like in the military, the camaraderie and kinship among officers is strong. But one way to mend this rupture between cops and minorities is to stand up to abuse, Dorsey says. Well, I mean, between cops and just misconduct in general. I mean, if the tow truck driver had been anything other than black, would you not have testified?
Of course not, because it wouldn't have mattered. And that's the point that I'm trying to make, because they would have been like, if it was a black cop and the driver was white and they got shot, nobody would come to the conclusion that he did it, because he's just like, you know what, fuck white people. That couldn't be a possibility, and it couldn't be entertained either. Even if the dude literally came out and said, no, I did it because he's white, because fuck white people, they'd be like, well, there's some other explanation that's making him say that. He doesn't really think that.
Let's see, quote, you have to make a decision about who you want to be when you're out there in that uniform as a black police officer, she says, and I was clear of who I was from day one. Okay, here's the thing. Now, obviously, I don't know all the details of this case, but if I remove race from that entire anecdote, you were doing the right thing not only as a citizen, but as a police officer. You had information that showed that a fellow officer acted with malice and abuse of power and so on and so forth. The race doesn't matter. The actions did. Even if his motivation was racist, ultimately he made a decision to act in a way that abused his authority. So, yeah, that might go to motive, but that's beside the point when a police officer shoots someone for no reason. So, what does race have to do with that? Was it race that motivated you to testify, or is it because it was the right thing to do? Because it should be the second option there. It shouldn't be a matter of discriminating against action on the basis of someone's skin color, because you know what that's called? Anyway, they know change is needed. Another way is to change perception by changing the reality. Okay, if people in the community see the police as the enemy, it's on the police to show them otherwise, Davis says. That is partially true. It doesn't help when the media and the activist groups that are promoted by the media vilify police officers as a matter of course.
Yeah, where no matter what the scenario is, no matter what the situation is or calls for or whatever, the cops are always evil regardless. Even when they're not in the wrong, they're still in the wrong because they're connected to a system that is like there's no winning for them. How do you prove that you're not a bad guy to a bunch of people who think that you're bad just simply by existing?
Yeah, I can't count how many stories we've seen now where the breathless reporting is police shoot another black man, and it's broadcast as the latest crime in a long series of crimes, and then you get the body camera footage, or then you actually find out the facts of the situation, and like, yeah, he wasn't showing up to pick up his kids for school. He was violating a protection order about on someone who filed a sexual harassment complaint against him, and he had a gun in his car and tried to shoot the cops. And like, that whole thing. Like, anyway, yeah, the media and our politicians have something to show for it as well. Remember back when the CHOP thing was happening, and a lot of cops were saying they were quitting because there were politicians on the protest lines calling them traitors or like baby killers and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's more of a responsibility to changing minds than just the police. Okay? There has to be a symbiotic relationship between the police and the people who run the jurisdictions the police operate in. When you got cities like Portland and Seattle and all these other places that are actively vilifying police or attempting to undercut the police's ability to do their jobs by defunding them, or by saying that they're going to defund them, or making public statements that obviously do not support police. Yeah.
Well, and it's also, too, the party that's making the demands have to, at the very least, follow the guidelines of the demands that they're offering. So, for example, if you're telling the police to take accountability, look at these situations objectively, and make a decision based on objective fact. So if a cop is doing something objectively wrong and you see it, do something about it. But whenever you see anything happen, it doesn't matter what the context is. If it's a cop involved, that cop is white and the person is black, then they're wrong regardless. There is no context. There is no looking at it or trying to figure out what objectively happened. So I'm like, how do you expect that kind of standard from them when you can't even provide it?
I know we're a little bit over time, but I'm going to get through a little bit more of this. Let's see. Yeah, he started with himself by forming Black Cops Against Police Brutality in 1991. Well, that's not divisive. By being on both sides, he was able to stand as an advocate for police reform while proving to his black community that he was one of them. I don't know. Do you think it's like, okay, blacks against police brutality? You don't think that's divisive? You don't think that's sending a message that we're the kind of cops you can trust? Because obviously the white ones are for brutality.
Almost everything that makes up our current social society is divisive by nature. It's crazy.
I know. Yeah, by politics and now by. This is why racial identitarianism is just absolute poison. Absolute poison. Anyway, like Christopher Hitchens used to say, religion poisons everything. Identitarianism poisons everything, especially racial identitarianism. In 1995, Davis was invited to Paterson, New Jersey, after a 16-year-old black teen died at the hands of a police officer. The city was on edge. Quote, "I promised them that when I came amongst them, I would be unarmed." Okay. There were times when it was extremely tense in the streets and they were threatening to kill a black cop. Yet I volunteered to be there to stand with them, Davis says. Why were they threatening to kill a black cop?
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting how that point was just kind of hand waved? It was like, yeah, they were threatening to kill some black cops.
What? I mean, okay, if I was watching a TEDx, this would be like, I really need some context there. Quote, when you take your oath to protect and serve people, those are the risks that you take. Yeah, those are the risks that you take. And those are the risks that people should respect of police officers, first and foremost, until they actually do something that is, worthy of vilification as individual officers. As a weird side note, I think I know I mentioned it the other day, but if you haven't seen the little short video of the Zoom call between the college professor and the student talking about police, and when the student is discussing his essay or his whatever, his paper or whatever, and he talks about how, in a general sense, he believes police are heroes given what they do and what risks they take, and how the college professor like snaps back at him and starts arguing with him that police shouldn't be considered as heroes and everything else. Mm-hmm. So that lady, I just found it out today. She was an adjunct professor at Cypress College in California. Mm-hmm. And at the time when I saw that video, I tweeted out and tagged Cypress College in it, and I said, Cypress College's motto, minds motivated, in practice, opinions mandated. Well, since that time, and I guess maybe a day or two before I made that tweet, because the story kind of caught up with me, she has been put on leave, that professor. They've effectively apologized for her behavior. And then today, out of nowhere, Cypress College followed me on Twitter. I was like, what?
Oh.
I was like, okay. Like, great. I hope you see my TEDx on Thursday.
Oh, wow. I mean, maybe it was your tweet where they're just like, we need to be accountable for our shit.
No,
well, not that did it, but
no, yeah, and well, so I know it wasn't that what did it, because
right.
I only saw the release to the press release today, or the little notice they put, because it was on somebody else's site or something, but it was dated April 30th,
right?
And I did that tweet at only maybe a couple of days ago, so they'd already made the decision to get the professor out at that point. But yeah, it was just very bizarre. But then it makes it even more bizarre that days after the fact, they just follow me. So anyway, I'm being followed by Cypress College now, which I hope they enjoy my content.
Keep criticizing them.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna end this one here, guys. Put the link in the chat if you guys want to read more on it. I'm sure there's not much. Actually, it's almost is that almost done? It's almost done. Tell you what, I'll finish it off. Some things are changing. This is not to say things aren't changing. Sergeant Ration Drayton and Captain Sonia Pruitt are proof. What proves that? I'm waiting with bated breath. Drayton was the Santa Barbara Police Department's only black officer when he started his career over 20 years ago. Now he says his department has employees of multiple races. Pruitt, who is also chairwoman of the National Black Police Association, was the first black woman to be named captain of the Montgomery County Police Department in Maryland. Still, police forces are, by and large, whiter than the communities they serve. Okay, just tell me that the skin color denotes the quality of the officer. Just say it. Just tell me that that's what you're pushing here. Because that is what you're saying.
Whiter than the communities they serve. So you mean to tell me there's a surplus of white people protecting and serving black people, and you are trying to feed us that is a problem?
Quote, when you see a police force of 90% white, and they're patrolling a neighborhood that's 100% black, and they don't really know the people in the neighborhood, I don't know how that can be effective, Drayton says.
Oh, but what if it's a black cop who doesn't know anybody in the neighborhood because he don't live in the hood, because he's a well-off cop that makes enough money to get the fuck out of the hood? It's very possible that, I swear to God, dude, these people think that people who share the same skin color are just linked Like we're all just one fucking mind, and we know each other. We're just like, oh, there's another Negro. You must know him, right? Like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah, through the mystic chords of memory, are we all connected by melanin? Give me a break.
These fucking people, they are so fucking disgustingly racist. It makes me so fucking angry.
If you want to talk about police relations, okay, police officers, I'm just going to say police officers, okay? Doesn't matter what they look like. Police officers who are integral to their beat, okay? There was, in the olden days, and that's something that's necessarily not practiced today, but in the olden days, the stereotype was you had a police officer who had a beat, as in he had his own little territory that he was there all the time. That was his job, to walk around and be a part of that part of the city. He knew the people, he knew the territory, people knew where to go when there was a problem and who to talk to and so on. There is some benefit to doing that. So if you want to argue that police officers are either too few and far between to get to know the territories that they are policing, and that is a problem, I would agree with you. I would agree with you. But you know how you don't solve that problem? Defunding the police and reducing their numbers.
Yeah, and Pecoraro brought up a point too. When they were, I actually saw something like this where a neighborhood was doing like, all right, well, you Negroes, you patrol the Negro area. We'll send the white cops where the whites are, and then the Latinos go there. And then they got called racist for that.
Yeah. A standard policy will help, they say. Diversifying a police force and building trust with the community can take years. What needs to happen now is to standardize police policy across the nation, they say. Here's the problem with that. Communities and culture and crime is not standardized across the nation.
Yeah, why would you have the same massive police presence in an area that has like a third of the crime as another? Like, that's just asinine. That's a waste of resources.
Quote, there needs to be a completely consistent use of force policy across this country so that there can be no question about whether an officer used excessive force, unquote, Pruitt said. That is never going... Look. Okay. Reforming what can and cannot be employed in the course of restraining someone or someone else, what is safe, what isn't, or at least is more likely to be safe, I'll grant you. You know, total and absolute chokehold until they pass out, probably not the best idea. I don't know. I'm not a professional police officer or you know, I don't know what you want to call it, like martial arts expert or anything. However, there will never be a time where there is never any question about a police officer's use of force. Okay, you're asking for the same thing as we want to eliminate rape.
Yeah,
we want to eliminate crime. No. And here's the thing. You do not want a situation where there is no question about an officer's use of force. You want there to be questions. Not immediate conviction because a cop used force, but you want a check and a balance. You do not want cops that feel like they are untouchable. Okay? There has to be pushback. Even if you have a standard, that doesn't mean there's never going to be any question. What are you talking about? That is the most ridiculous thing I could think of a police officer. There's no question an officer uses excessive force. There will always be a question, and there should always be a question. If an officer pulls the trigger on his gun, there should be an investigation to make sure, because you don't know. Even with body cameras, okay? I mean, and what do you do about the Adam Toledo situations, right? What do you do about those? Okay? It's a situation where the kid didn't have a gun in his hands when the cop shot him. Yeah, he didn't. But in the split second beforehand, he did. So wasn't the cop in the right or was he in the wrong? What standard would you put on that situation that this cop was supposed to abide by in that circumstance? Would you argue thou that, well, he had the gun in his hand. There's no question the cop fired. The kid had a gun in his hand when he fired. We don't have to question about it. Okay. What standard would you put on the Micaiah Bryant situation? Oh, he has to wait until the stabbing happens, until he can fire his gun, make sure that a crime has actually been committed first? What are you talking about? I'm sorry. I'm going off, but that is just such a ridiculous thing to say.
Yeah, and it falls perfectly in line with the We need to set purposely unattainable goals so we can bitch about it forever.
Okay, I'm really going to stop now because I'm not done. Anyway, we're going to have a slightly truncated MSS news. But guys, if you have news stories you'd like us to read on the air, please send them to us via Twitter using the hashtag MSS News. Can't promise to get to them all because not only am I long-winded, but Twitter is now deciding whether or not it's going to actually show me the search page. It's thinking about it very hard. I'm going to reboot my Twitter here and see if that maybe clears it up. Maybe not. Okay, let's try that again. Search page. There you go. That's a good search page. MSS News. And who is first in line? I can only guess. Oh! Well, what do you know? It's not Frosted Glass. Can you believe it, Satsu?
Nope.
It is actually senior staff reporter and chief Florida correspondent Colleen Bernier.
Good job.
Man arrested at Kid Rock's bar for removing colostomy bag and swinging it around.
Oh my God.
Holy shit. Oh, sorry. We had a real life shitstorm at Kid Rock's last night, people. No, literally. According to Scan Nashville on Twitter, a call came in over the Metro Nashville police radio last night for assistance at Kid Rock's big ass honky tonk rock and roll steakhouse in Lower Broadway. You know, if there's one place I could be assured of quality, it's Kid Rock's restaurant.
Oh, of course.
I mean, maybe. I've never been there. Seems there was a man who was stirring up shit at the bar. And by that, I mean he had removed his colostomy bag and was flinging literal poo around at others. According to the scanner traffic, this was the third time police had been in contact with the man that night. And he had previously refused medical attention both times. When the police encountered the man again, he removed his colostomy bag and began flinging poo on the responding officers. Oh, God. Now, first of all, I feel like I need to clarify that there's no indication whether this man was actually inside the bar or out on the street in front of Kid Rock's. But you can imagine being out for a night of partying and literal feces starts raining down on you. There's just no coming back from that. Call it a night, call it a weekend, call it a year, but you've got to call it at that point. It's over. While the poo flinging man was eventually arrested, thoughts and prayers for the poor officer who had to transport him to the clink, and at least one officer was temporarily out of service after having to run home to make a wardrobe change.
What a shitty situation.
Yeah, I can't avoid those puns.
Yeah.
Let's see. This one comes from Jim Heelis. Exercise extraordinaire and comic book creator. U.S. report. And Jim says in his tweet, I called it. Okay. U.S. report. Taliban will likely curtail Afghan women's rights. But you don't say. Really? Really? The Taliban will curtail women's rights? Golly gee whiz, Batman. U.S. intelligence agencies are warning that any gains in women's rights in Afghanistan made in the last 2 decades will be at risk after U.S. troops withdraw later this year. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Because our reason for being there, guys, right? It's not safety and security of U.S. interests. It's not preventing terrorism. It's making a country, a people, and a society that runs itself on Bronze Age thinking from treating women badly. Now, don't get me wrong. If I could wave a magic wand and stop everybody from mistreating everybody on the planet immediately, I would do so. But I'm afraid that our presence there will never end if that is the objective. There's some things that are just pragmatically irrational to aim for. And most especially in that part of the world. Now, maybe I sound like a complete callous monster here. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, you caught me eating. Sorry.
Is that what you're doing? Okay, I'll just keep reading for a bit. An unclassified report released Tuesday by the Director of National Intelligence says the Taliban remain, quote, broadly consistent in its restrictive approach to women's rights and would roll back much of the past 2 decades' progress if the group regained national power. How would you look up and see what the Taliban's ideology is based on, first and foremost? Maybe that'll give you a clue that was going to happen regardless. It's the latest U.S. warning of the consequences of the Afghan withdrawal now underway, 2 decades after an American-led coalition toppled the Taliban. General Mark, well, if we toppled them, why are they even there? General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said Sunday that there would possibly be, quote, some really dramatic, bad possible outcomes, unquote, for Afghan forces left on their own to counter the Taliban, but also noted, quote, we frankly don't know yet, unquote. And CIA Director William Burns told Congress in April that the American ability to, quote, collect and act on threats will diminish, unquote. Well, yeah, if we're not there. But again, I have to ask, how long should we have our troops away from home and set in that country to cure the ills of their society and culture?
I don't know. I mean, America's the worst place on the planet for people to be anyway. So even if they did do that, they're better off than women here, I'm sure. We've talked about this before. It's one of those sort of like unavoidable necessities of the interaction of nations. Right? It's like we know the people who run Saudi Arabia, for example, have some very barbaric sensibilities in regards to criminal justice, the treatment of other people, and on and on and on. But they have all the oil. So what do you do when you are a country with values of X, and because of the necessity and pragmatic immediacy of circumstance, you have to deal cooperatively with a country with values of Y? You just have to do it. And in this situation, it's like, are we just going to stay in Afghanistan forever to just act as a stopgap to their values and the culture that they've possessed for centuries, roaring back into place as soon as we disappear? I mean, if that's our only purpose there, then we're putting people's lives on the line for a losing battle every day. And like I say, I wish I had an answer. I wish our being there would change all the minds in the country, right, on how to treat people and treat each other and so on and so forth. But if our military is being reduced down to effectively glorified hall monitors for a sovereign nation, however chaotic that nation is, I really don't see the point. President Joe Biden has set a September deadline for U.S. forces to withdraw, while Biden and his top officials have stressed that they will not end their engagement with Afghanistan or advocacy for human rights. The U.S. has also openly warned of gains for the Taliban, which has been locked in an insurgency with coalition and Afghan forces and already controls swaths throughout the country. During the Taliban's rule in the 1990s, women were largely confined to their homes and girls had no access to education. Despite protestations from the U.S. and Europe, the Taliban brutally enforced its extreme version of Islamic Sharia law. Its extreme version of Islamic Sharia law? I don't think it's extreme. I think it's just practicing Sharia law. Have you read Sharia law? Extreme version. What? Man, I just love that, where it's like, and that was, I think we may have had a conversation about this before, how people look at people who follow the Bible, like the original text or whatever, quote unquote, original text, to the letter as extremist. Like, oh, those people are extremists. I'm like, no, they're the ones that are normal. You're the one that's abnormal, the person who follows the Bible and only picks all the things that you're willing to do or willing to deal with or willing to abide by. Like, you're the weird one. The people following it to the letter, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing according to the text. Like, how are they extremists? I don't get that.
Yeah, I love Sharia law light.
Sharia law light.
That's my favorite kind of Sharia law. The light version, sort of like when you get that antivirus software download. Do you want the full version or do you want the light version?
Diet Christianity.
Oh man. Okay. Well, again, I know it's going to sound cruel and everything else, but I don't understand what they hope to achieve. Like, okay, if the complaint is if we leave, the clock will be turned back on human rights and everything else. All right. How is our staying there going to prevent that from happening at some point when we do leave. I mean, otherwise we just have to set up. We might as well just conquer Afghanistan, right? I mean, if the goal is to change Afghanistan's culture and to prevent the kind of human rights violations or aggression on women's rights that are inevitable if we leave, then the only way to ensure that that doesn't happen is to make Afghanistan the 51st state. I mean, I don't know what other alternative there is.
Just having the 52nd.
Oh yeah, sorry, DC. Yeah, just having a perpetual, permanent outpost in Afghanistan is going to be the stopgap. That's only going to hold back the problem, not solve it. Is that a plan for success? Is that something that someone wants to dedicate to? Hey, people in our military, you're going to be sent off to a country to hold off something that's going to happen anyway at whatever point we decide to leave, except we're never going to leave. And all you're doing is just sort of staving something off, not actually curing anything. Anyway, could go on, but I will move on. Tonight's episode is not brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Just so you know.
Progressive.
Let's see. This one comes from Massive Dynamics. I'll squeeze in a couple more here just to make sure we don't completely forget the wonderful world of MSS names. Put that in here. Come on, you can do it. Florida man accused of attacking multiple family members with katana sword. Uh-oh. He was trying to be a samurai. Sanford police have arrested a man who was accused of attacking family members with a katana sword. Sanford police arrested Gary Dwayne St. Alban Campbell. Holy cow. Are we sure he's not a hospital in Canada? For attacking 3 of his family members with a katana sword, the report said. On April 28th, 2021, just after 1:30 a.m., the Sanford Police Department received a 911 call requiring medical assistance for the residents of a home on Spanish Bay Drive. On scene, officers located Campbell in the front of his home, pacing, officials said. Inside the home, they said they found Campbell's mother, father, and sister all suffering from severe wounds. All 3 were transported to the hospital with severe injuries. Based on the investigation and interviews with Campbell, it appears that Campbell intentionally attacked his family members with the weapon. I'm not quite sure how you can unintentionally attack several family members with a katana.
Maybe he thought they were possessed and was trying to exorcise them.
Campbell was arrested and charged with 2 counts of attempted first-degree homicide and 1 count of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. Okay, well, first off, given the counts that he's been charged with, fingers crossed this means his family have all survived. Outside of that, yeah.
I'm laughing at the chat. Katana sword is like saying pistol gun.
Yeah, that's true. That's also true. A katana sword. And Pincala says, let's be fair, Scribe, like that hospital was named by the French. Well, I mean, Gary Dwayne St. Alban Campbell. St. Alban? I don't know who that is. I don't know my saints. I'm not an extreme Catholic. Let's see. We'll get 1 or 2 more in here. Here we go. This one comes from Peter Stewart. See, my mind always pauses whenever you clear your throat, like, oh, he's going to say something.
Have I ever cleared my throat to get your attention, Scribbles?
Given the fact that I've just sort of accepted it now as just something you're going to do anyway, I wouldn't know it if you did.
The answer is no. I've never.
My brain still does it, but my actions don't really coincide. Historic home of notorious BC cult listed for $2.8 million. Ooh, a notorious BC cult. Oh, wait, is this the? Hold on, I'm trying to think of Canadian cults that I'm familiar with. No, I think that guy was in Quebec. There was a cult in Canada, and it was a guy who, like, he fashioned himself as kind of a neo-Jesus. He even had like the long hair and the beard and everything. I forget his name. Anyway, he had a cult of women in his little stable, and at one point he punished one by cutting off her arm.
Holy shit.
And she went along with it, and there was something about a baby. And I don't remember all the details. I saw a movie on this at one point years and years ago. It was like, the movie was called what was it? It was like The Sinful Messiah or something or whatever. Anyway, is this that or is it something else?
Who the hell
The former homestead of one of Canada's most notorious cults is up for sale. The historic island property is largely unchanged since the 1920s, when it served as the reputed Ark of Refuge for spiritual leader Brother 12 and his Aquarian Foundation. Okay, that's not this guy. That's not the guy I was thinking of. The farm encompasses just over 99 acres of DeCrucy Island. Its fruit orchards, forests, and meadows making up the bulk of the small BC Gulf island located southeast of Nanaimo. Let's see. I'm trying to see if anybody in the chat knows who I was talking about. Anyway, it was here that Brother 12, born Edward Arthur Wilson in Birmingham, England, established a fortified colony where he and dozens of followers hoped to survive the coming apocalypse. The island compound was an offshoot of the clan's original commune in Cedar, on the outskirts of present-day Nanaimo, and eventually grew to include a portion of nearby Valdez Island as well. The Aquarian colony was bankrolled by early members, many of them wealthy and well-connected socialites from the United States who were enthralled by Brother 12's spiritual and political utopianism. Do you imagine that? Bored rich people getting caught up in some kind of ideological nonsense. If you can believe it.
Bored rich people.
But the shine soon wore off the island ideal. The ethic of communalism devolved into backbreaking forced labor for even the colony's most elderly inhabitants, while Brother 12 struck up romantic relationships with the married women among the colony. Gosh, there's a pattern to these cult things. Jim Jones, specifically this, so many other things. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Paranoia took hold and trust in the prophet eroded. Accusations of embezzlement, black magic, abuse, and even attempted murder followed. Foundation members grew increasingly suspicious and then litigious as their spiritual leader converted their collective wealth into gold coins and buried them around the island. Brother 12's treasure eventually amounted to 43 jars of gold coins, which he shuffled from island to island, hoping to outwit a possible thief. Writes John Oliphant, author of the definitive book on Brother 12 and his followers. Quote, many believe that he left his hoard buried somewhere in his island kingdom. Unquote. Ooh, buried treasure! Oh my God, an evil cult? Buried treasure? This sounds like a novel for somebody other than me.
By the way, this is what Uncharted 5 is going to be about.
Uncharted 5 or Far Cry 6?
No, we know what Far Cry 6 is about.
No, that's right. Yeah, it's the quasi. It's supposed to be some sort of like a weird Cuban-like island or something.
Yeah,
was that it? I can't remember. They're like what generalized part of the world that was supposed to take place in. So, okay, we'll do one more just because it is related, at least tangentially, to this last story. At least by words in title. Mummified corpse of cult leader found wrapped in Christmas lights in Colorado. This one comes from an American Celt for reference. Go away. No, I don't want to. No. What? Stop that. Okay, let's try that again. The mummified corpse of the leader of the Love Has Won cult was found enshrined with Christmas lights in a Colorado home, authorities said. Amy Carlson, 45, who was known as Mother God by her followers, was found dead, wrapped in a sleeping bag in the rural town of Moffett on Wednesday, according to arrest affidavits. I thought you said it was wrapped in Christmas lights. A follower told authorities that he had taken in a group of people who needed a place to stay and later discovered the body upon returning home from a trip to Denver. Okay. He added that he believed the group had transported Carlson's body from California to his home. So they drove from California to Denver with dead Mother God body in the back seat. Okay. The Saguache County, I'm probably screwing that up. Coroner's office has not released the cause or manner of the death. Authorities said the, quote, mummified remains appeared to be set up in some type of shrine, and the body was decorated with Christmas lights. The corpse also had, quote, what appears to be glitter-type makeup on around the eyes, authorities said. Oh, she didn't die of, like, unnatural causes. She just went to a really totally kicking rave.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
An eternal rave.
Yeah. Thank you, Pecoraro, driving up an estimated $6 million in gold coins. Wow. Now that is a buried treasure. So if the island is selling for 2.8 million and you found the gold coins, you'd make a really tidy profit. So buy the island and then just tear it apart completely. Get out your metal detectors and your ground scanning sonars and everything else.
Somebody call up Mr. Beast.
There you go. There you go. And thank you, Ebony Williams. Did the last article mention what happened to the last 11 brothers? Ha 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 ha. I bet they were all. I bet he is the 12th reincarnation of all the other brothers. That's what it was. Their souls just kind of consolidate as the lineage goes on. That's my guess. Makes about as much sense as anything else. 2 children, a 13-year-old and a 2-year-old boy, were in the home at the time. That sounds healthy. 7 people were arrested on charges for abuse of a corpse and child abuse. Well, I'd say that's probably up there. They were identified as people. While being interviewed by authorities, the group would not use the word deceased to refer to Carlson, only stating that she was, quote, out of communication, unquote. I mean, they're technically not incorrect. Thank you. This is Kyle. So that story is about the Dark Brotherhood and the Night Mother. Ooh,
Oh shit!
Nice
catch.
That's right. Which one's Cicero? Let's see. The 7 are members of the spiritual group with authorities, and ex-members have described as a cult. You don't say. I honestly, I wouldn't need current or ex-members to tell me that it sounds like a cult. I think I got it. Local authorities say they have received many complaints from families across the country saying love has won, is brainwashing people and stealing their money. That's what cults do. Carlson, the group's self-proclaimed divine being, said on its website that she was on the 534th reincarnation in my quest to recover my beloved planet, the center of the universe, and the first planet I created, unquote. Oh, cult leaders are so entertaining. They really are. The stuff that people will just throw themselves into. Now let's talk about Star Wars and my giant collection of books on the subject. Oh, wait. Everyone, thank you so much for all the stories. Sorry to get to them all. But, time's a-wasting, and we got important things to talk about.
That's right.
And thank you. This is Kyle again. She's out of communication because they don't have a listener yet. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Where's the listener? Yeah, the listener is also a reincarnated dragon.
Chat's on the roll tonight.
I know, right? So YouTube time. Satsu, what have you been up to?
Did I do anything YouTube-wise? Oh, just trying to transfer my assets from my old version of Camtasia over to my new one so I can start editing again. Because I've had to kind of reset my process here. And for whatever reason, trying to transfer the assets normally, the way in which it allows you to do so does not work for some reason. So now I have to do it manually, which is a pain in the ass, but whatever. I'm only grabbing the stuff I immediately need, so I guess I can pull stuff over as I need it. So it's not that big a deal, but that's mainly what I've been up to.
As for myself, like I said earlier, Thursday, unless something kooky happens, will be TED Excellence as usual. I've got one picked out. And when I picked it out, I was thinking to myself, this is a subject I've done a TEDx on before, but it's also involves a sort of broader topic that I'm not all that well versed in, and I might be sort of a entirely layman's perspective on this subject may not be as informative or entertaining as it could be otherwise. So I sought out a wingman, someone who at least has a bit more experience with such things, and that will be In Human Form, creator of Jim Can't Swim style documentaries and such. Go check out his channel. He'll be joining me in a tandem TEDx on Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. So looking forward to that. If that changes for any reason, because again, I have work stuff that day, which again, hopefully won't, interrupt anything. I'll let you guys know as soon as I am able. But now, instead of fucketry, and given the day, I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I thought today I would take a few minutes out and read to you from some religious texts.
Oh boy.
And we'll start off with the Jedi Path. From the introduction, Yavin Praxium ABY 2437. The Jedi Path is one of the most amazing discoveries made since the opening of the new Jedi Academy. It was found among the artifacts recently acquired from a squib salvage scow near the ruins of Biss. While the holocrons we've recovered contain some specific detail, this heavily worn manual is a tangible echo of a time long lost. Our historians estimate the text was set down a decade or more after the end of the New Sith Wars in 1000 BBY. Its authors, Jedi Masters of the Age, used the changed political structure and newfound peace as an impetus to codify the role of the Jedi Order and to establish traditions that endured for centuries. This particular copy of the book appears to date from around 115 BBY and was passed from master to Padawan in succession, some of whom I knew and some of whom exist as legends only. It is therefore of considerable historical and personal significance. The thoughts and observations of each owner are recorded in their handwritten comments scrawled on the pages, which makes for interesting reading. To the best of our historians' knowledge, the following is when each annotator possessed the volume. Master Yoda, the first possessor of this copy, apparently reviewed the pages for revisions in future editions. Jedi Thame Cerulean received the book when he was a child, and it remained in his possession at least through his teens, about 115 to 103 BBY. Dooku, Thame Cerulean's Padawan, took control of the book during his apprenticeship around 89 to 82 BBY. He later turned to the dark side and took on the title Count. Qui-Gon Jinn was the next owner, given the book by his master, Dooku. Qui-Gon's comments appear to date from 82 to 72 BBY. We believe Qui-Gon kept it safe until Obi-Wan Kenobi found the book in 44 BBY. It then passed to Anakin Skywalker in 32 BBY. Anakin owned the book for a 10-year stretch until the start of the Clone Wars. Ahsoka Tano, Anakin's Padawan, held on to the volume, adding her comments during the Clone Wars from 22 to 19 BBY. Darth Sidious, the Sith alias of Emperor Palpatine, acquired the book during the aftermath of the Clone Wars and added his own form of caustic commentary. I continued the practice of annotating the book's text, for I sensed it should remain a living document. Through its teachings, I have gained a greater understanding of what it means to be a Jedi, and am honored to preserve its wisdom for generations to come. Signed, Luke Skywalker. Are you ready, Satsu?
Are we really doing this?
I am really doing this.
All righty.
All right. Introduction, Part 1. The Jedi Code by Grand Master Faye Coven. Okay.
Watch your homies back.
All right. For 40 years, the Jedi Code has been my focus, as it will become yours. It is the philosophy upon which stands the Jedi Order. It is a pledge of protection to the citizens and inhabitants of the Republic. It is an encapsulation of our relationship with the Force. As a Jedi, you must be faithful to the spirit of the Code. Every day, you must ask yourself, do I understand it? In its classical form, as transcribed by Hominix Rectorina during the early Mandarin period, the Code consists of 5 core precepts. Number 1, there is no emotion, there is peace. This principle guides all meditations and interactions with all others. It reaffirms the Jedi ideal to act without recklessness and to view the actions of others through the pure lens of the unifying force. Number 2, there is no ignorance, there is knowledge. Those who don't understand this basic precept are quick to fear, and fear is the path to the dark side. The archives represent the greatest collection of knowledge in the galaxy. Number 3, there is no passion. There is serenity. A subtle extrapolation of the first precept, this reminder to act dispassionately in every deliberation extends to personal obsessions and is a reminder not to elevate the self above the mission. Next, there is no chaos. There is harmony. Those who cannot see the threads uniting all life view existence as random and without purpose. The Jedi perceive the structure and will of the many galaxies. And lastly, there is no death. There is the Force. All things die, but the Force lives on. As beings who exist as shades of the Force, the end of our existence in this form is not to be overly mourned. We are part of the energy larger than ourselves, and we play roles in a cosmic fabric that outstrip our incarnate understanding. The Upper Mandarin and Dragult transcripts add more and controversial tenets, but the Jedi need only to remember the core teachings to live their lives as gifted yet humble defenders of justice. Get all that, Satsu?
Oh yeah, I'm all in.
Okay. Repeat after me, Satsu. Repeat after me, Satsu. There is no emotion. There is peace.
Can I translate it for my people to understand it?
It is a living document. Proceed.
All right. Don't be a little bitch and be nice to other people.
There is no ignorance. There is knowledge.
Don't be stupid.
There is no passion. There is serenity.
Get your head out of your ass and smoke weed.
There is no chaos. There is harmony.
Stop being crazy and shut the fuck up.
There is no death. There is the Force.
We don't die, we multiply.
Thank you, Shoehorn of Plenty. That sounds like a cult. The devil, you say? Well, now, there is your introduction to the path of the Jedi. Now we shall move on to the Book of the Sith.
Yeah, let's do it. The fun guys.
Preface by Darth Sidious. I have accomplished what no Sith has ever done before. I have destroyed the Jedi and subverted Coruscant. I sit on the throne of a new and unstoppable regime. I will shape the great galactic empire according to my own design. The Sith have dreamt of this moment since the beginning of recorded history. I could not have achieved this prize without treading on the backs of those who came before. Exploiting the failures of others is the way of the Sith.
Damn. All right.
Since my days as a young noble on Naboo, long before I joined Darth Plagueis and began my apprenticeship, I collected dark side lore. These rubbings of Sith tablets and untranslatable runic scrolls were coveted and traded on the black markets by cultists, collectors, and museum curators willing to defy the Republic's ban on Sith artifacts. The very existence of this illicit trade confirms many vital truths. Rulers seek to control information. The powerful will do anything to hoard their power. And if something is forbidden, it is likely a thing worth knowing. Getting these artifacts past the law officials and into my quarters on Naboo provided new lessons. True power brokers dwell in the shadows. Credits can buy anything, even intangible concepts such as access and silence. It is necessary to lie to achieve anything of value, and a skilled liar is nearly impossible to detect. Although my experience acquiring the text provided a practical knowledge of how treasures and secrets change hands, as well as the roles non-force sensitives play in keeping the galaxy running, the actual dark side tomes deepened my knowledge of the ancient Sith. I realized that I had all of the tools I needed to craft my own system of power, one that fused contemporary politics with Sith ideals. Under the tutelage of Darth Plagueis, I inherited the Sith archives, more than 1,000 years worth of teachings passed in secret from master to apprentice. But what I learned was that only a handful of figures had ever truly advanced the cause of the Sith. Thus I made it my goal to recover their most famous writings, not the revisions of misguided chroniclers who had lived hundreds of years after them, but the parchments bearing their original words and recorded by their own hands. With the fall of the Jedi Temple, I have finally recovered the last of these documents, though only fragments of each have survived the centuries. Together, these pages unite one of the first Sith Lords with he who shall be the last. Each author's voice echoes the era in which he or she held power, but the Sith Order has evolved over 7,000 years. The errors made by my predecessors will not be my own. Their triumphs will be nothing compared to my omnipotence.
Just so you guys know, in order to get through this, I am actually picturing him writing this, laying across his bed with his feet up with ankle socks on, like, "Dear diary."
Dear diary, I have defeated the Jedi.
Today, Jessica was such a bitch.
Thank you, Andrew Joyner, for the sleeping emoji. Are you bored by this? Are you bored by this? Come on.
How could you be? This is incredible.
Where's the Sith code? Let's see. Can I find the Sith code in this thing? We can go over that with Satsu and he can translate it. I mean, not to say I don't already have it memorized. But I just wanted to find if there was commentary along with it. Let's see here. Sith weapons, Sith amulets, houses of power, Sith holocrons. Oh boy, oh boy. The reign of the axe, conquests of the Sith, war beasts. Oh my gosh. Sith alchemy, Sith incantations. Guys, this is practically the Necronomicon of the Star Wars universe. Here we go. Satsu, are you ready for the code of the Sith?
Let's hear it.
Peace is a lie. There is only passion.
Peace? Wait, so it's just the opposite of the Jedi code?
Shush you! Shush, listen. Look here, listen. Peace is a lie. There is only passion.
Join Antifa today.
Let me read it once first, then we'll go through it.
Okay.
Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me.
Why is that so long?
Because it's not an easy road, Satsu.
That's too
Only
long.
the most dedicated can complete it, Satsu.
That's way too long.
All right.
They need to shorten that.
Peace is a lie. There is only passion.
As I said, join Antifa today.
Okay. Through passion, I gain strength.
Through passion, I gain strength. Through activism, we make a change.
I would have said through sex, I gain physical fitness.
Do you? I mean, it is pretty good exercise, but more cardio than anything else.
Through strength, I gain power.
Straight gains in the gym, yo.
Through power, I gain victory.
I mean, that's pretty straightforward. There's no way to translate that.
Through victory, my chains are broken.
See, I can't even relate that to activist movements now because they don't want the chains to be broken. God damn it. This is hard.
The Force shall free me.
Admitting you're racist is a one step to allyship.
Yeah, that wasn't nearly as good as the first time around.
I know.
Anyway, yes, I do actually own both of these things.
This is why the Sith sucks.
Hey, you shush you. In a way, these two books are ancient tomes of a kind because they were some of the last things published dealing with the old pre-Disney universe as chronicles thereof. before the takeover. So I own original hardcover copies of these two things, and I keep them in a nice, dry, clean place because I appreciate the old stuff since they're totally destroying it with the new stuff. But anyway, I just thought I'd do that as a fun little distraction.
Did you have fun?
Special day. Yes.
Then that's what matters.
Did I have fun? Yes, I had fun.
There you go.
Especially talking like this.
Yeah, I was just like, he gonna regret that.
Well, no, I mean, the days where actually I'm sick and I have like a really raspy voice, that's when it sounds really good. There's actually a video on my channel from way back where I recorded myself saying lines from Star Wars when I had a sick voice, and I think it's called like the sore throat of the Force or something, or the sore side of the Force or something. Anyway, I'm sure I could find it on here if I really tried. Or you can find it on my channel. Yeah. Anyway,
so you
just
make a better Sith Lord while sick. Is that what that is?
I sound a lot more like the Emperor if I give it a go when I'm sick. Yes. Anyway, everyone, conveniently enough, we're at the bottom of the hour, and thus it's question time. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, complaints, conspiracy theories, if you have your own Star Wars story or anecdote you'd like to share, please put it in the chat now. If you have questions for us directly, please put plenty of chat marks after those. If you have statements for us to consider, please put plenty of statement marks after those. Can't promise to get to them all, but I'll try. Let's see. Oh, boy. Cannibalistic Wizard. Powers. Make any mammal lactate. Recharge your cell phone by twisting your nipples until charged, or summon a flying sentient saw blade. I'll go for the last one.
How do you say two absolutely ridiculous things and then something actually cool afterwards and expect?
Well, okay, here's the thing. Is the sentient saw blade submitting to my will, or is it just like it can do whatever it wants? Because at that point, probably not. Like, it's like, oh, fuck you, I'm going to cut you up. Ah!
So do I just like summon it and get the fuck out of there?
Yeah. I don't know. Thank you, Gamer Valine. I mean, it's cool. I'm the Jedi, but Vader is my homeboy. Long live and may the Fourth be with you. Yeah, I have a limited number of avatars of friends of the show to use in these thumbnails, and it just happened to be the case that your avatar had the right angle of your face and shape and everything that fit there perfectly. So yeah, if you're more of a Sith, I'm sorry I made you a Jedi, but I'm more of a Sith, but I can only fit myself on a Jedi too. And Drunkle's face worked too well for Darth Malgus, so that was just the way the cookie crumbled. If I do another Star Wars thumbnail in the future, and Lord knows I probably will, I will try to remember, if I can, to fit you onto a Sith of some kind. Check your logic. Why the hell did you do Star Wars today? Why the hell is Star Wars Day May 4th? It's based on a shitty pun. Well, you just answered your question. So
yeah,
there you go.
It's based on a shitty pun.
Yeah. Or Revan. Oh, you want to be Revan? Oh, yeah. And little known fact, I played the Old Republic, the MMORPG, for years. Way too much I played that game. I worked the stock market, or well, the item market at the clearinghouse or whatever. I made millions upon millions and millions of credits. I think I ended up purchasing most of my guild's flagship with the money that I'd earned. I just like, because you have to pay, for any of you who have never played an MMORPG, if you have a group that you all get together and you have the same guild and you can work together, you can get a guild, usually something, a base or whatever. In Star Wars, obviously, you get a guild flagship. And in order to access the various rooms and spaces on your flagship, you have to basically pay to unlock the doors. And so each door on the flagship had a different price. And I think I paid to unlock tons of those doors just because I made so much on the market. I knew how to play it. And I'd buy, it's very easy, like buy things low, sell them high, and get lucky, especially when somebody, and this happened way too often, they post something for sale that was ridiculously expensive in any other circumstance, but they forgot a couple of zeros or something. And so they ended up selling it for something way too cheap. And then I just turned out, like, I remember there was like a chess piece of armor or something that was, I think it was either Darth Revan's armor or something like that. Anyway, those things were selling for, just for the hypothetical of it, like 10 million credits, right? And this guy dropped it for 100,000 credits. And so I bought that up and I sold it for 9 million credits. And yeah, I made a ridiculous, profit off of that. And of course, the guy probably realized his mistake after the fact, but didn't, especially when he got his sale price back. But hey, your mistake, my gain.
That's the path to power.
Let's see, Tackle Pack. Am I the only one who didn't know what a colostomy bag was until the story earlier? Possibly so.
Yeah, I knew.
I knew what it was.
Yeah.
Gamer Valine, did you play Star Wars Galaxies back in the day? No, I didn't play it back in the day, but in my Star Wars fervor a couple of years ago, I did acquire a copy of Star Wars Galaxies and attempted to play on the public servers that are now, at least I think they still are, being run by the fan organization that is trying to rebuild Galaxies. I don't know if it's still running, but I tried to play Galaxies. The problem is that just like with so many other things, when you try to go backwards in playing old games using old interfaces with old graphics and old systems, and it became quite a slog. And trying to sort of acclimate myself to that system and figure out how to work with people or what to do or how to do it, it's complicated. So not in the classic days of when it was live, but I did attempt to play it. I still have my copy around here somewhere, but again, even if I found it or pulled it out of storage, what computer has a disk drive anymore? Not mine, so I can't do anything with it.
Okay, do you want to see or hear about the random shit that my friends send me? This is why I stopped checking my DMs, because you remember I told you my friends send me crazy, just random shit out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's apparently a message exchange.
Okay.
And it says, if your girlfriend's vagina smells like roses, she sprayed that shit with female Axe or something, because natural pussy smells like heat coming out of the back of a PS4. And the dude responded, I think there might be something wrong with your PlayStation 4. And the other dudes put like the little asterisk to notate that he's doing something. He says, smacks PS4. That's what good pussy smells like.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, what the fuck is happening here? Why would you send me this?
Okay.
Like, what?
Moving
now
on.
I'm curious now.
Excuse me. Let's see. Ebony Williams, my lords, how far are you from delusions of grandeur in order to become a cult leader? How far am I? I mean, I always thought it'd be kind of cool to have a cult. A nice cult.
A nice cult.
Where I still get the harem, but we don't actually do anything bad to each other. Well, I mean, you know what I mean in that regard.
I know what you meant, but
yeah, I know. It came out exactly as it should. I don't know how far am I from delusions of grandeur? I have such a poor estimation of myself, and such I give myself such low amounts of credit in life in general. I am a country mile away from the delusions of grandeur necessary to become a cult leader.
Yeah, same here. You probably asked the worst two people that question.
Yeah, it's like I don't possess that level of either self-confidence or
narcissism.
Yeah, intergalactic levels of narcissism or arrogance to be a cult leader. Mr. Yes, Scribe, have you seen 4 Weddings and a Funeral? Yes, long time ago. I can still remember bits and pieces of that film. Was there Mr. Bean in that? He played the priest or whatever, I think. Yeah.
Oddly enough, I've been to 4 funerals and a wedding.
Okay.
So there's that.
Resolute Germ, what do you think of Galaxy of Heroes mobile game? I played that for a little while back in, I can't remember how long ago it was now, at least a couple of years ago. And it's basically just one of those egg timer games. It's like, Raid Shadow Legends, except for it's for Star Wars. And those kind of games, they get really boring real quick for me because it's just a grind. And of course, you have to wait for their power to recharge, which takes 17 hours or whatever the hell it is. And I collected all types of different versions of the characters and things, and some were better than others. And I got tired of it. I never pay real money for those things if I do ever play them, and my interest in playing them has reduced mightily over the years. The only one, to my partial shame, not exactly, the only one I ever paid money for in one of those egg timer web-based games, there was a Marvel superheroes game on Facebook, and I forget what it was called, but it was basically it was a turn-based little back and forth, and you collected your heroes or villains or whatever, and you had them fight the other guys, and you went through boss battles and stuff like that.
I think I played that one, but it wasn't on Facebook. It was on the phone.
Yeah, it probably was on phones at the time. I played it on Facebook, and that was the one of those things that I ever spent real money on. I think I spent $20 on it or something to buy the coins or the currency or whatever it was. And the two characters that I specifically went after to acquire and then power up were the Punisher, obviously, and Doctor Strange. And so I had Punisher and Doctor Strange and whoever else is on my team doing stuff all the time, and that was fun. So I appreciated it for the attention to detail in the art and the lore and all the little inside jokes and things. So people that actually cared about the material were making that game. And so that's what drew me to it. But like with so many other things, I just stopped playing it after a while because it was just like, this is just boring. It's a grind. I can't.
Yeah, those games are bad for me because if I get one of those games and I play them and they're genuinely good and not all, super grindy or super begging you for money and stuff, if I play it for free long enough, I feel obligated. I'm just like, I got all this fucking free entertainment from these guys. Like, I want to support them. And yeah, that gets bad.
I can't say I've never done that with something, but it's rare.
Shit, I spent a fuck ton of money on Warframe. Back when that came out. Well, not when it came out, because I played it way after it came out. But when I first got my PlayStation 4, it was the only game I had because I couldn't buy any games at the time or whatever. And oh boy, I don't even want to talk about how much money I've spent on
you couldn't buy any other games because you're spending it all on Warframe.
Well, there was a circumstance at the time that prevented me from buying more games when I bought the system. And somebody was like, oh, well, if you're not buying any games, download Warframe. It's pretty fun. I'm like, I've never even heard of that. So I downloaded it, and that was like the only thing I played for like 2 years.
Let's see. Mata Winter. Oh, Lords, would you all try a blue cheeseburger, a white cheddar and potato soup, and a cow udder mug of chocolate milk tea? It is the tea that is chocolate, not the milk. I would go for everything except for the chocolate milk tea. That doesn't, no. Everything else sounds fine. I've had a blue cheeseburger before. So
okay. Now, when you say blue cheeseburger, do you mean a cheeseburger that is blue or a cheeseburger with blue cheese on it?
I'm assuming it's like a cheeseburger where the cheese is the blue cheese.
Because the blue cheese is disgusting. So, no, thank you.
Depends on how it's prepared, I suppose. Black Romeo, have you played the Jedi Knight games? All of them. Yep. I had Dark Forces when I was a kid. And then, of course, Jedi Knight 2 came out. Or Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight came out. And that was such an amazing upgrade from Dark Forces. And still, I mean, the overall, like, breadth of that game and the live action bits and everything, it was such a revelation back when it came out because you hadn't seen Star Wars on film in any way, shape, or form really until that point. And to see like a whole story had been filmed out with new characters and all this other stuff and the voice acting, it was something else. Still, to a certain extent, at least sentimentally still holds up, I think. And then, of course, you had Jedi Outcast, which it took a long time for me to end up getting because I didn't have a computer at that time, in that time period that could run it. And it looked more complicated to me for some reason. I don't know why that was. I eventually got that. And then, Jedi Academy, I played the hell out of. I played so much Jedi Academy too. And it was much more dumbed down in some of the controls ways than Outcast, but some people think it's better. But I played all the Jedi Knight games and, of course, Knights of the Old Republic. And there's very few sort of quasi story based or first person shooter Star Wars games that I haven't played and owned. So, but that's just me. Attack Albega, speaking of cults, whose backstory have you followed more, David Koresh or Jim Jones? I mean, personally, I probably read up more on Jim Jones than David Koresh. So yeah, Jim Jones and People's Temple. So I'm assuming Satsu doesn't have an answer to that one.
Nah.
Yeah, I know a bit more about David Koresh and his story now than I did around, at least at that time or shortly thereafter. But I'd say that at least as far as like information that I could pull into reference quicker, it'd probably be Jim Jones. Let's see, Mr. Yes, Satsu, how is Squeetus?
Squeetus is just fine. She's sleeping right now, which is good. And she has been sleeping well for the past couple weeks, which is nice. Haven't really been having too much issues outside of that one day where she was losing it. But she's doing good.
Thank you, Keldrig. Quality content. Oh, and Satsu's here too. I know. It's just a burden I have to bear. But thank you, Keldrig.
Why you gotta do me like that, Keldrig?
Let's see. Ebony Williams asks, Satsu, would you ever make soups and or stews?
I have made soups. I don't know if I've made any stews. Maybe I have. But yes, I will. Yeah, if you got a recipe, send me it. I like making soups and stews, and I really like making casseroles too. So I've been looking for some new recipes to try out.
Gotta make that casserole.
Casserole.
Mr. Yes, Lawton, have you two been to Tim Hortons? Nope.
Tim Hortons?
Yeah. I assume that's either a restaurant or a bar or something.
For whatever reason, it sounds like a place I've heard of, but
yeah,
I don't think so.
Is that like a donut place or something? I'm asking rhetorically into the wind here, but for some reason like you said, it sounds familiar. I've heard it referenced somewhere. Is that a Canadian thing? Because when I think of those two names together, I think of it in a Canadian accent. Does that make sense? Pincalo, tell me, is this a Canadian thing? Because if it's true, if that's correct, then I have an amazing memory. That's all I'll say. Cannibals Wizard, do conjoined twins count as one or two players in sports? Given the fact that they're probably only mobile as a single unit, I'd say one. But it depends on the sport, I guess, because if you can think of a sport where and of course it depends on how conjoined they are.
Yeah,
like,
how many limbs they got.
Yeah, can they operate independently? If they're conjoined at the head, except it's like the back of each other's head kind of thing. If they're in boxing and they can just switch off and rest between, that's probably counts as two.
Switch off and rest.
Well, I mean, that would be the most ideal situation, right? Like one guy faces and fights, and then when he's tired out, they don't have to like tag out. They just kind of turn around, and then they got a wholly separate rested up fighter.
That's
well, I was trying to think of a sport where it'd be different. I don't know. USP is 2 cents. That's 2 cents. Would you do a soup video for April Fools where you show some milk being poured into cereal? Yeah.
And piss off the collective internet.
Yeah. Special guest, Ranting Monkey. Mr. Yes again. Scribe, Tim Hortons is a donut and coffee shop. Aha. Okay. What about the Canadian part? Is it a Canadian thing or is it like an American regional thing? I need to know this. Let's see. Taco Pick. Western New York has some Tim Hortons. Oh, okay. Well, it's not a Canadian thing exclusively. Genty Maxi says, no, Tim Hortons is Canadian Dunkin' Donuts. Aha! All right, so it's primarily Canadian. It's not like, okay, so for whatever reason, my memory of the name or place of Tim Hortons came with a Canadian accent, or what my brain assumes is a Canadian accent.
Horton hears a who?
Horton hears a who. Horton hears a donut. And then ate it. Pincalo says, Tim Hortons was the staple Canadian coffee shop until it was bought by the Brazilian firm that owns Burger King. Ew. Well, so Tim Hortons was the Canadian Dunkin' Donuts. Okay. I got you. Thank you again, Keldrig. I'm sorry, Satsu. That was incredibly rude of me. I just want you to know you're my favorite Lord of the Night who was named Satsu 2 cents.
I appreciate that.
Damning with faint praise is the phrase that comes to mind. Let's see. Cougar Knife, have you guys watched Invincible? With the collective of clips that have been posted to YouTube, I have seen the entire series at this point.
I've only seen the one clip that I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I haven't seen anything else from it. I'm curious about it, but nothing has compelled me yet to go watch it.
Yeah, there are channels out there that seemingly do nothing but post short clips of every plot point for every episode in order without actually posting the entire episode. So collectively now, I have seen the entire series. I'm sure there are bits and pieces here and there that I've missed out on, but I get the gist of the entire story and the setups for the second season. And it is the adult, sort of like if you think of like The Boys, you know about The Boys show? Yeah, so it's the cartoon version of The Boys insofar as maturity and violence. The voice acting is amazing. They got J.K. Simmons to play one of the leads, and he does an amazing job. It's also funny that the main character looks an awful lot like J. Jonah Jameson, so that comparison has been made by a lot of people, given the actor. But yeah, no, the animation's great, the voice acting's great. I don't know if it would be blasphemy for me to say that it's on the level of like Castlevania for like American anime. I don't actually, it might be more American anime than Castlevania, because Castlevania is still, the Invincible is obviously set in the US and everything. So I don't know. Can a fully American product be called anime?
You don't bring that up, because all the Avatar stands will come out and that'll be a that'll be a fucking shitstorm and a half. So you know what? We gonna put that back where you got it from.
All right,
and we're gonna leave it right there.
Pincalo Lawton, did you happen to catch Blind Press in her first Mortal Kombat tournament last night? She got 111th out of like 250. I wasn't able to watch it because I had to go to bed. But I did see her tweet on that, and I retweeted it out. And congratulations to her on that. That she got 100. I mean, halfway through the pack of that is amazing for anybody. So congratulations to her. And yeah, guys, if you want to see, if you like Mortal Kombat to begin with, but if you also want to see someone who can't see play Mortal Kombat ridiculously effectively, go check out Blind Press's channel and take a look. Let's see. Ebony Williams says, Pincalo driving man. Woo, good for her. Yes, good for Blind Press. And Gentine Maxi, I used to work for one back when they still made the donuts in store. It's not the same. I miss the blueberry fritters though. Brand new, still hot. I had reasons I was fat. And blueberries and apple fritters. I haven't had a blueberry fritter before. That sounds great. But yeah, fresh made donuts in the store. That's how it should be done. I don't care what chain you are or anything else. You make them fresh in the store.
Yeah, there was a place I used to work at that used to do it in store. It was so great.
No one, nowhere. Which will be the least sound movie MCU-wise? Black Widow or Doctor Strange or The Eternals? Well, The Eternals is a difficult one because sort of like the Guardians of the Galaxy, they're such a niche collection of characters that they can really do whatever they want with them, and you're not necessarily going to upset anybody's balance so much. There'll probably be some super snobs out there who will say something if they change too much, but I think the Eternals is kind of a push on that question. It'll just be whether or not the movie works and the characters are interesting. I kind of, like I say, I put them in kind of the Guardians of the Galaxy territory. Doctor Strange, well, I probably would have said Doctor Strange up until that article I read the other day where because they couldn't have Doctor Strange, the white guy, telling Wanda how to use her powers, even though he's the Sorcerer Supreme and she's a non-magically trained mutant. And they said they had to rewrite the script for the Doctor Strange sequel in order to account for the fact that they wrote him out of the WandaVision TV show for that reason. I'm going to have to say Black Widow is now. Sorry. No, I misread that. The least sound movie. Oh, the least sound, like, as far as... okay, I'll reverse course. Doctor Strange will be the least sound movie. Black Widow will be the soundest movie of them all. And the Eternals, like I say, it's their place in the whole Marvel universe. First off, they haven't appeared anywhere else in the movies, so you can't screw up the continuity or the characters because it's their first outing. And like I said, they have so much freedom with what they want to do with those characters, given the fact that they are such a niche comic book and they'll be coming into an already established universe. So Doctor Strange will be the least sound of the three. That's my estimate, being a movie nerd. Ebony Williams, cupcakes or muffins? Depends on the muffin. Probably a muffin, because muffins can be in any time of the day kind of thing. It could be a breakfast thing. It could be a snack thing at lunch. It could be a dessert thing. So I'll say muffins. They're more versatile.
Yeah, probably muffins.
Let's see. Scribe, who told Kevin Feige to write out Doctor Strange? He didn't say who brought that up. I have a feeling. I could be wrong. I have a feeling it was the showrunner, Jack Schaefer. Jack was short for Jackie or Jacqueline or whatever. Anyway, Jack Schaefer, who had absolutely no idea who the character of Mephisto was until after the Wanda series came out. You know, Mephisto, the Marvel Universe rendition of the devil for the most part. Not the only one, but one of the major ones. And a character who had a major part in the backstory of Wanda and her children. And the showrunner of WandaVision didn't even know the character existed. I said this the other day. You know, the thing that I used to love about Marvel Studios and is very quickly withering is the fact that they got people who cared about the IPs and the characters to make the movies and write the scripts about those characters. And they weren't just playing willy-nilly. Kevin Feige had a plan for how things were going to work out, and it worked out so well up through the first couple of phases. Unlike Warner Brothers and DC, who had no plan and put in people in place that had no idea what they were doing with the characters. I really, a lot of credit to Marvel, even for the weakest of the Marvel movies in the first set, like, you know, Thor and maybe slightly the original Incredible Hulk. They still had a lot in there where somebody actually paid attention to the source material and cared about it. That faith is quickly diminishing in me with every little leak and story and concession they're making to the characters, or just completely tossing out the core of what makes a character, or just making a character almost embarrassing, like in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Just how they completely emasculated Bucky Barnes. How they turned Sam Wilson into a Black Lives Matter activist is just, yeah, it was just nothing. It's really, really disappointing. And now that the TV shows and the mentality there are bleeding over directly into the movies, sad day. Mr. Yes Again, Satsu, what are you getting Squishy and your mother for Mother's Day? Oh yeah, Satsu, that's this Sunday. What are you gonna do?
Well, I know what I'm getting Squishy, or at least I know what I'm doing for Squishy. As far as my mom is concerned, I asked her specifically what it is she wants for Mother's Day because, she's always talking about things that she either wants or needs. And she responded very promptly, I don't know. So,
well, there you go.
So I'm just like,
flowers is always a good backup.
I guess. I don't know. Like, Mama, well, maybe. I know Squishy's not a flowers girl. She's like, I can't eat this. What the fuck?
Oh, well, you could.
You could, but she's like, flower. According to Squishy, flowers is the most worthless gift you can give somebody. Even sentimentally, she's just like, they do nothing for me. I'm like, well, good, because I don't want to buy something that's gonna die in like 4 days anyway. So,
well, I just make sure to send my mother flowers, and the card always reads, "Thank you for 36 hours of labor." Everyone, with that, we're at the top of the hour and thus the end of the show. Thank you all so much for joining us for this wonderful episode on May the 4th. Be with you. Hope you enjoyed it. Satsu, you do anything after this?
Probably gonna go lay down.
Oh, okay. So nothing online, though?
No.
Okay. As for myself, guys, be on the lookout for a link to the next TED Excellence. That'll be on Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. I might post a little early since I have a guest coming on this time. And that guest will be, if things line up, in human form, whose channel you can find on YouTube. Look him up if you like Jim Can't Swim style stuff, analysis, crime, society, and so forth. Other than that, everyone, you can find us tomorrow night, per usual, on Satsu's channel at the regular time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for the next Lords of the Night. Everyone, thank you for joining us. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone is so well behaved, there's very little you have to do. Everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. With that, everyone, hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, get well soon. Satsu, thank you for joining me as always.
Yep.
Everyone, your lives make us sad, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
And taking out my copy of Screw the Roses, Send Me the Thorns, the romance and sexual sorcery of sadomasochism.
Sadomasochism. Also, Ash B says your TEDx videos are great.
Oh, thank you, Ashby. Appreciate it. Today's secret word is midichlorian.
Wait a minute. What book did you get that from?
I don't know.
You look.